Despite that I have a cold that is trying to keep me and hold me down from filming this video, don't worry, I have some hot tea right now, I am going to talk about this series because I love it so much and I've been waiting for clear weather so I could gush about this manga. Hello friends, happy Friday. I am so very excited that you're here. I am so very excited to be talking about this manga. I am doing a manga recommendation, manga review of the digital only title, unfortunately, or digital only series from Kodansha called My Darling Next Door. I snagged this on a whim. Yes, I snagged it on a whim. I got volume 1 for free over the summer when Kodansha was doing like a free manga sale like every week, and I picked up this one. Then they did another sale this past August and I went and I bought the rest of the series on a whim because I could not stop thinking about it. But in case if you're not familiar with this series, it is totally adorable. That's not officially like in the blurb, but our main girl Ririka, she is, I think it's called a gairu, I think that's how you say that, but usually they dress a certain way. It's very flashy. They usually have dyed blonde hair, they'll have very bright clothes, and I feel like compared to most Japanese people, they have more skin that's usually like showing or revealing. Somebody said that they're considered like the valley girls in Japan. I don't know how true that is, but usually they're very bright and colorful clothing wear and dyed hair. But she's in high school and she doesn't have a crush on anybody, and she's sort of wondering, well, goodness, what is this whole romance thing about? Because she's one of like, out of her friends, she's the only girl who's not in a romantic relationship or has even had a crush. But enter her next door neighbor who just moves in. His name is Hino. He is a salaryman. They meet one morning and she finds out that he's living alone. He doesn't know how to cook, and so she invites her and her dad invite him over to come eat with them because it's just the two of them. So begins when she gets a crush on him, and so begins their romance, their story in this 5-volume series. It was so amazing, so wholesome, so wonderful. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that Kodansha is saying this is a 16+ manga series when I'm like, why? I was pretty nervous, I feel like, when I was going in, and I think that's why I'm so shocked and surprised how much I love this, because I went in with caution. I was like, I don't really know what to expect. I'm like, are we going to be getting something spicy or not? But I'm like, the covers are so cute. I love the preview of chapter 1. Goodness, like, I don't know why it has that rating. This is such a wholesome and very clean series. Like, I don't even know where to start. Let's start with Ririka because there's so much I want to say, and I have been like rehearsing in my brain what I wanted to say because I'm like, I really want people to pick up this series. This is one of the very few times where I have read this series and I'm already rereading it again. Like, that is how much I loved and adored this series. It is just going to be a very special part of me, and I think part of why it is so special is because it is an age gap manga, but it's only by 5 years. And me and my husband, like, Ririka and Hino's story reminds me of my own, even though my husband wasn't a salaryman, but we worked at Taco Bell. That's when I met him. We have a 7-year age gap between us. I was 17 and he was 24 when we first met, and I thought he was completely hot, but I was like, he would never talk to me or date me because I'm so dorky and so nerdy, but yet here we are, been married for over 10 years now, and I'm so very thankful. I think because of that, because of my own love story and how it reminded me of that, like similar vibes, maybe if that's the right word, that I was really excited to read this, and it just well exceeded my expectations. Our main girl, Ririka, is such a fun character. She has such a bright personality. Like, she's a bright character in general, but she has an even brighter personality. I love how cheerful she is. I love her smile. When she smiles, she has that little tooth, and it's just, it's so cute. It's very precious, and I love her clothing style. Like, she is very energetic. She's very upbeat and cheerful, and her interactions with Hinochi, that's her nickname she gave him, are very sweet because she doesn't have a crush on him at first, but she thinks he's totally cute, which is definitely the catalyst for her to want to be in a relationship with him and have her own romantic story. What's so great about that is this was perfection, and I mean that with everything I am. There's no love triangle, which was very refreshing, and I think that's part of why I also really loved it, because they start out as friends and then they slowly start to have feelings for each other, though with Hinochi it's a lot harder to tell there we go, because he is the complete opposite of Ririka, like in every single way, but They're so adorable together. I guess we could talk about Hinochi since we're already there, but it's hard to know what he's thinking because he's very, I was about to say airheaded, but that's not the right word. He's very spacey. Like when they first meet, it was because where they live in the apartment, you have like the hallway that has the actual apartments, and then there's a door that you need a like card to use to get into the apartment. Hopefully that makes sense. Well, he kept trying to get out to go to work, and she's like, did you forget your like scan card? And he's like, yeah. And she starts laughing because she's like, you need that to get in. And she didn't realize at first that he was the new neighbor until they come back home from like school and work. But that was their first interaction, and she was like talking a whole bunch to him, and he finally says like, no. And she's like, what? And he's like, well, you were talking and I didn't know when to cut in to say, to like answer your question, which was like at the beginning of the conversation before she started talking. And so that really continues through the whole thing, but he does continue to open up a little bit more, and he doesn't smile often, but when he does, it is so precious. It is everything. He's so incredibly cute. He's very modest. He's very earnest. He's very loyal, and he is a really great friend, despite that he, I guess, casual in expressing his emotions, because there's times where like, well, one time for a prime example, that she hosts something very special. It was like a surprise, and he doesn't react right away. And she's like, this was probably too childish, because she feels, with having feelings for him and that she is younger, that she probably seems like a kid to him. And so she often casually bring up like, that was probably too childish. You probably think I'm immature. And he's like, no, this meant a lot to me that you did this for me. But it just takes a moment for him to actually speak and say those things that he's thinking. That's the only time you'll ever know what he's thinking, because his facial emotions don't come out. Like you looking at his facial features, there we go. When you look at his facial features, you're not gonna know what he's thinking. So I think there was even a joke that Ririka says when Hinochi meets her friends for the first time at the beach, and she's like, come on, work those facial muscles, because they felt very intimidated by him. Probably a lot of people do, but he's so sweet, down to earth. He's so amazing. He's so amazing. And so when you put them together, they really have this great balance as a couple. I don't feel like it was too much of like not speaking and then too much of speaking. It was just so very, very well done. And when it comes to the romance, I love the progression of the series. Like the timing of everything was absolutely wonderful. There never felt a boring part. In fact, when I got to the very end, I like hugged my iPad and I almost started crying, because it was just everything that I was hoping. There's this steady building of, I'm hesitant to say the word tension, because then you'll think maybe like sexual tension, and I don't feel that's there. Now, I will say, let's go ahead and talk about this. This is a very, very minor spoiler. I lost like my train of thought because I got nervous, because you guys know I don't like talking about spoilers. One of the great parts of their romance, and why I'm shocked that it's 16 up, because it's so very modest. So when it comes to, and the feelings are all out in the air and everybody knows how they feel about one another, including the father, he doesn't give his blessing right away because he cares about his daughter, and that he doesn't want her to get ridiculed or made fun of in the community, or looked down upon, not made fun of, but looked down upon the community because of the age gap. So he's like, wait till she graduates before you basically fully display that you're in a romance or relationship and dating. Let me tell you, Hinochi basically promises that he will never touch Ririka in a sexual way at all. It was so well done. Like, I admire Hinochi's strength and Ririka as well, because truly, like, they almost said a spoiler. It's literally to the final volume before you see that promise fulfilled. I don't know if that made sense, because I'm like, how do I say this without, sharing more spoilers? But I just wanted to mention that it's a very modest romance, and if you're looking for a bunch of hugging and a bunch of kissing, you're not going to find that, because Hinochi is a very honorable man. When Rika tries to sort of bust moves, as she says, Hinochi turns her away. He says no. He stops her. And I was like, oh my goodness. And when he is feeling maybe like the heat of the moment where he's really wanting to kiss her, or I guess hug her, granted, Ririka does hug him, he actually poured water over his head to like cool down, literally. And she was so upset. She's like, well, not upset, like sort of panicked and frazzled, because she's like, oh my goodness, did I just anger him and he's not going to want to be with me? He's not going to want to talk to me, because she just hugged him from the back. And that was what was so great. She's like, tell me, where are the lines? Where are the boundaries? Am I allowed allowed to hug you? Can I not hug you? I just love that so much about their relationship. I feel like we don't see it often in shoujo manga where the romance is addressed in this kind of way where they keep a distance. Like even when things come up and you're just like, dude, this would be the perfect opportunity to kiss right now, they just don't. It's not a bad thing, but I will say it makes the ending all that much more sweeter, and it was so well worth it. And that's why I say that this series was just perfection, because when we think of shoujo manga, we want that kiss as shoujo manga readers. Like we're like, this is it. Like we're expecting it, we're anticipating it, and you don't quite get that the same in this series, but it does not make it any less romantic. In fact, I think it's that much more sweeter because you see how much they like each other, how much they want to be together, even though that doesn't happen right away. There's that building up of their friendship, growing closer together, doing fun things together. I will say that this series had a perfect balance of the school life and at home life, because typically, she can't make those school memories with him because he's not in school. So they have to make their own kinds of memories, and it was so well done. I think I was actually surprised that when we get to the later, I think it was volume 5 actually, where we have more of an emphasis of her at school, I was a little bit caught off guard. It wasn't a bad thing, but we've been so much at home with her, and which I do like because she's so cute when she's dressing up and whatnot. I absolutely adore this series on so many levels. Like I said, I am rereading it from the start. Like after I read it, I skim read my favorite parts. I'm actually sitting down rereading from the beginning because that's how much I loved this series. I mean, I really wish that it was printed physically because I would totally buy it. It was so different than what I expected, and like I said, it has that rating of 16 up. I don't get how. The conversations are so amazing. The natural growth of these, nothing was forced, and like I said, there's no love triangles. So if you like shoujo series that have no love triangles, this is a great one to check out. And also, if you're not very fond of physical contact, this is another great one. I love the relationship between Ririka and Hinochi. I just love their growth so very, very much. So if you don't mind reading digital manga, I highly recommend checking this out. There are so many fun moments that I absolutely just loved and adored. I mean, you have your school festival, you have a little bit of Valentine's Day, you have Christmas, you have New Year's, you have those special iconic series that we see in the high school romances, but it's still in this series. So don't feel like I'm gonna miss out on those high school iconic moments. No, you still have them. They're great. Even if there are things that happen and you're just like, oh, that was so sad, because there is definitely a very sad moment. And there's only one moment that I feel like Ririka made a decision that was like, why did you do that? I got why she did it, but I'm like, why did you do that? But like the situation was remedied, one of those two, where she addresses it very quickly. And I was so glad that we just had that resolved. There we go. That was where I was looking for. Resolved very quickly. And they're just, as a couple and individually, they're always moving forward. They very much understand one another. It's a wonderful series, friends. It is a wonderful series. I love it so very much. I highly recommend it. I know I already said that, but please, if you don't have an issue with smaller age gap, romances, very fun characters, natural progression from friendship to romance, and a very sweet, worth it ending with no boring moments, please go check out My Darling Next Door. But I would love to hear from you, friends. Do you guys like reading age gap manga? What are some age gap manga romances that you have read, if you've read any? If you don't read them, what are some other manga romances that you have read and enjoyed? I would love to hear from you, friends. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!